dropping this weight off myself. My wife's long-distance affair had a fiery ending back in May. The affair originally lasted almost a year. They no longer contact each other. His wife gives me updates. My wife went into a serious depression as a result of this. She does have a history of depression, off and on, and the affair was her drug. Anyways, she's been on antidepressants for 4 weeks now and has been staying with her cousin in another state. She sends me emails once in a while or wants to chat with our kids and me once or twice a week. Kids are 5 and 10. Anyways, she has decided to stay with her cousin another 4 weeks. I am currently working on getting my self-esteem where it once was. It just hurts me to see that my wife of 11 years is making almost no attempt on rebuilding our marriage. Is this sort of thing common? She does have a penchant for being hard-headed and reluctant to her positive criticism. First, it started emotional and then became physical. At one point, the POSOM spent a week at our house. His company worked with my wife's company, and I had a bad vibe about it. Turns out the affair was going on during that time. She promised nothing ever happened at the house, but I'll never know for sure. Sucks looking back at all that crap. My gut is going in the direction of Lord Mayhem. You're right, she hasn't suffered any consequences on my end or our marriage. Her father, counselor, and a book called Surviving the Affair had me on the path of what's called Plan A, which is depositing as much positive love as possible. In hindsight, she needed tough love. I let her get away with too damn much and probably made her feel I didn't care. Her argument the whole time was that I couldn't express my feelings, avoiding the affair issue. I know she's not totally over the affair. I would feel better if she initiated it, but she didn't. When she finally confessed, after so much investigating and discussions with her, she couldn't leave the affair and it continued, off and on at times, for the next 7 months. It was a roller coaster to say the least. We went to counseling every week. The counselor made it clear that the affair was wrong, but how do you convince someone who was very deep in the fog at the time? I'm 99% sure they're not in contact right now. The OM's wife tells me everything he is trying to do to win his wife back, and my cousin is pretty damn smart and engaging about all this. But I know my wife misses the OM dearly, but I do have mixed feelings about her being away. Part of me wants to give her the best possibility to recover from this affair, but it angers me because my whole vacation, I'm a teacher, is being spent with the kids, which can get stressful while she gets herself back together. I hate this state of limbo I am in. Should I give her the ultimatum of returning to working on the marriage versus divorce when she returns, or should I be more patient if she isn't ready? I believe letting go is the right thing, but I wish I would have used it when the affair was in full swing. Now that the affair is currently over, is this the right thing to still do? And do I ask her what she intends to do about our marriage when she returns, and if she says she's still unsure, etc., then let her go? Or let her go now? If so, do I tell her while she's in another state with her cousin? I have time to get my crap together and come up with my expectations, plan, and will stick with it before she returns at the end of the month. I spoke at length with the OMW last night. I asked her if she was 100% sure there was no contact between them. She said she wasn't 100%. Her husband and my wife are tech geeks, so they can find a way if they need to. But she did say her husband told her my wife contacted him with a phony phone and was asking him if he was getting into her email. She contacted him a month ago and then 2 weeks ago about this topic. The OM told his wife the discussion was brief, awkward, and he wanted to hang up ASAP. He didn't have to tell her, but he did. I don't know every detail though on what transpired in the conversation. Very disappointed in my wife even contacting. I think she was just using this excuse of hacking to contact him, hear his voice, etc. My wife also sent a call to us last night and video chatted with the kids and me. It was a positive conversation, but just chit-chat, nothing serious or deep. I told her I've been doing great even though it's stressful at times being a single dad with the kids all day long. High maintenance, the little stinkers. She did make a point to make sure I check out her photos online in a bike ride she participated in where people rode with nothing on them and she was strutting in her shorts. I think she is trying to make me jealous in a way, or possibly want her physically. I used to be a sucker for her, just so I could continue hanging on to her or want her back. I really don't know her intentions. My wife never mentioned the breaking of no contact or mention about contacting him. As a matter of fact, before she left back around early June, she asked that I not contact the OM wife any longer. I was pissed and told her that made no sense. Anyways, I agree 100% with the enabling and lack of consequences part. I had bad advice, unintentional, from her dad and to a lesser degree our counselor, that it was better to show my loving and caring side while this went down, while at the same time explaining I prefer her with me and working on our marriage, versus playing hardball and risk losing her. So yes, she has learned she can do what the duck she wants and knows she has a sucker for a husband who will take her back. Knowing that she had the bike ride in panties, and has a great physique, she possibly attracted someone else. I would hope my cousin sees to it that she doesn't allow that to happen if it is. My wife also mentioned she's trying to spend as little as possible while she's away. Appears she is by bank statements, to make her be away seem less troubling. Whatever, this is making me more pissed as I type this down. If anyone has advice on ways to make oneself stronger emotionally to move on and get back to their lives, I'm all ears. I used to be a happy-go-lucky person before the bomb was finally discovered. During this whole affair, she was always wanting to know my feelings. I did voice my displeasure about the affair, but I held back at times or bit my tongue in fear of pushing her away. Advice given to me, I wouldn't be shocked that she sees this as me not caring at all. I do care. Her bike ride with her cousin's soulmate, females, is made to appear as an innocent event and very well could be from her perspective. Things is, part of me is not happy that she was in an environment with other naked bike riders, particularly males. And the other part of me feels like I'm not surprised and doesn't care. Mixed feelings, I guess. How should I respond about her bike ride? Be upfront about it. My wife works for the school district, so she's getting paid during the summer. She was demoted, however, which is why she's looking elsewhere for a job before school starts again. I know what my gut is telling me to do. I have to admit my heart and emotions are struggling with this hurt, fear, and extreme disappointment of the strong possibility of divorce. I wonder if she's waiting for me to do the divorce so she feels less guilty and believe that I was the one who gave up. I guess it doesn't matter what she thinks because her mind is so damn deluded. It's crazy how the person you married to for the last 11 years would be amazing, and the day they finally confess to an A, they turn into this cold person who you don't recognize. If there is anyone familiar with Texas divorce preparation and has advice, I'm all ears. I'm going to start looking into the process today. It's very possible there is still contact, but judging from the music she has been listening to online, I am able to track this. It's all about losing the one you love. It's one reason I think it's still a dead affair. But who knows? I do not contact her, but I do respond to her emails when she wants to chat with the kids or would like a recipe. I was the cook in the house. Should I cut off everything but kids' communication? Her cousin, who she is staying, replied to an email I sent her. I thanked her for her help, good intentions, but mentioned the kids and I miss her and need her back. The cousin's response was that she doesn't feel comfortable interfering, but she thinks it's a good idea I tell my wife that I do miss her. Should I tell her that I miss having a wife and my kids miss their mom? Or should I remain in the dark? I don't want to have it backfire on me where if I tell her I miss her that she continues to lose respect in me. Is it possible my wife is so down and out that she thinks I'm done with her already and she's just too depressed and tried to deal with it anymore? We talked extensively last night. She initiated the talk because I've withdrawn after her telling me 2 days ago she's moving back with her cousin to look for work. She liked it up there and feels it's better to start a new job there than here. She admits she's doing this for herself. She told our kids that she's moving away in a couple weeks. She says it's not permanent, that she'll see the kids once a month flying down. I told her I'm concerned for their well-being and how this trip to help myself can create abandonment issues down the line, like possibly relationships, etc. for the kids. She understood, and says she wants to be involved and lighten the separation as much as possible so the effect is minimal. She had 2 months during the summer away with her cousin to work on herself. It doesn't seem like she accomplished much and now wants to live there for a while. She says she is not leaving forever, that she still wants to work on our communication. She sees this as our biggest fault and issue, and our marriage via chat. She doesn't want a divorce. I'm sick of living in limbo and have been since October. My needs are never met and I don't want to go on living like this. I am seriously considering filing for divorce if she leaves. Of course, if I tell her this, she will only interpret it as me trying to control her and manipulate her. Her friend and brother tell me she's living in this paranoia that everyone is against her. Who isn't when someone commits adultery and goes on an extended vacation? I told her I felt used and taken advantage of while she was away. That she never considered my feelings when she extended the affair while it continued, and is now gone. When she decided to stay with her cousin over the summer another 3 weeks. And now deciding to move back in her. She never asked me what I thought or felt. She just told me this is what she's doing. Her cousin lives in a different state, by the way, thousands of miles away. Anyway, I am going to the counselor Monday. I invited her to go. She already has her mind made up. I'm not sure what to say or do at this point. She is set in her belief that this is what she needs to do. I'm sick of living like this, being chained on a leash with the continued belief that somehow this might work itself out. I wish she could understand my stance of not wanting her to leave and how I'm considering divorce. I feel she only sees that as me being controlling. Is there a way of explaining this without the belief that this is controlling? Hell, do you guys think I'm being controlling? I'm not trying to be. I just don't want to keep living like this. I feel 2 people need to be together, in close proximity, living together to work on their marriage. I am ready to move on. I am not going to lie. I'm scared too proceeding with filing and what my kids will go through. Terrified. My daughter is 10. My son is 5. He starts kindergarten too. She said she will be here the first week or two to see them off to school. I leave for work before the kids leave for school. I am starting to see what my options are. My counselor session is tomorrow. Not sure how to game plan now. Should I even bring my wife? Not sure if there's a point now since her mind is made up. Amazing, she is walking around in a cheerful, positive mood and being nice to the kids and extra nice to me. I spoke with her last night. She says that she feels like she belongs in Minnesota. She enjoyed it there and wants to start new there. She mentioned something that surprised me a bit when she said that no one there knows about our current issues. Here, everyone knows, exposed, and I think the stress of all that is driving her away. She's also bent on our inability to communicate, that it hurts her to see me talking to everyone about my feelings except for her. I told her that even when she told me to communicate with her and tell her my feelings, that even when I did, she would never reciprocate, and the biggest thing that affected me was her actions. She would either be back in love with the OM or she was always trying to be separate from me. Moving to Minnesota for 2 months told me she wants her space. She's blaming me for not communicating enough all the while she is staying away from me. I told her all this. I told her that divorcing is the easy way out and working on the marriage will be hard work, and that I told her she is worth working hard for. I made it clear she needs to stay to make this work. Met with counselor. Wife is evidently bothered that I speak with others, including OMW, about my feelings and emotions, and I can't with her. I tried to explain that I have, but over time her actions have caused repeated heartache. She would keep asking for me to communicate, and when I did it was either during her affair or she would move into her dad's house or move to Minnesota. I told my wife her actions told me she wasn't interested. I said I want to work on the marriage full steam ahead, but she needs to want to do the same. Then it happened. She admitted that she isn't into working on our marriage right now. She really never has been. This, despite her telling me she is begging me to communicate. She said she isn't into working on anything because her heart was broken 3 times and she needs to work on herself. She isn't interested in any relationships. The counselor asked if I would be able to help her heal through this process. My wife didn't blame me for the heartbreak but said I wouldn't be able to help. She said she didn't want a divorce but thought that it was inevitable. Tonight, she said that while she's up in Minnesota if she could pay for half the mortgage and her car note. I started with, does your house payment include utilities? And she said no. I told her I'll get back to you with what I think is fair. She's not going to pay just half the mortgage and her car note. Update. Currently, I have not yet made the push to get an attorney. Our finances have taken a hit as of late, plus since my wife turned in her resignation after being demoted. I will be the sole breadwinner at the end of this month. My wife and I have discussed our separation and don't want it to turn ugly, so I am hoping that if this goes to divorce that it can be done for the minimum. For now, my wife is still determined to move into her cousin's home in a few weeks. Her father is financially well off and has offered to help her and me out with the finances until she gets a job. My wife has asked me what I feel she is responsible for paying. I told her I'll get back to her because I want to make sure the list I create doesn't miss anything. Last night, I found a paper that had her write down things she thinks she is responsible for. Here it is. 1. Half the mortgage. 2. Half utilities and water. 3. Her own car note. That's it. Here are other things that need to be paid at the end of the month. Not sure which I am responsible for and which one she is. 1. Child support. This one I strongly feel she needs to help out in. Not sure how much. Kids are 5 and 10. 2. Student loans. Just finished master's last summer. 3. Credit cards. We basically have 2 to still pay off. I can't think of anything else off top of my head. I don't intend for doing this for too long, a month, until I get the opportunity to do my homework and go the route of divorce if my wife does not come out of the fog. I believe my wife wants to help us out. She brought up the idea right after she told me she was moving away. I just don't know how much she is willing to meet my demands. Her father loves his grandchildren and I to death, so I know he would help. Also, if anyone has knowledge of going the quick route of serving divorce papers, etc., I am all ears. I have a few weeks to get myself prepared for the big D moment. I have done everything I could to make this work. I am ready to let go, but I can tell that I am waiting to see if she'll actually move up there away from the family. If she moves, I will pull the D trigger, without a doubt, sometime later. Wife is flying down to spend the weekend here and she asked how I felt if it was okay that she stayed at my house with the kids. I told her I would think about it. She replied it was no big deal and she has a place to stay, I'm assuming her dad's. He lives 15 minutes from me. But how should I respond? Part of me really feels she doesn't deserve to be in the same home as me and the kids. But part of me tries to be rational and not emotional and say she is still their mom, and how would the kids react if I keep her out? I'm kind of split, to be honest. A month later, talked to my wife last night about specifics on our assets, debt, type of custody, etc. She has not spoken with a lawyer and really has done little homework on the whole divorce process. She just wants this to be done with no bad blood, so to speak. She wants to save money by trying to do this ourselves. I told her there are some things we might have to get certain people involved, but I wasn't sure exactly who at this point. She had no problem with 1. Giving me the house. If I sell it, any profit from it is split 50-50. 2. Child, marital support. She is currently on unemployment and her dad is helping me out. I trust her dad that he will not change his tune. 3. Home assets I keep unless there is anything I don't want. 4. My school loan debt is around 12 grand. She said would 50-50 be okay, and I said I would think about it. And finally, and the biggest negotiation we had was the kids. She misses them terribly. She mentioned joint custody and I said I was fine with that. But I mentioned primary custody and she didn't know what that was. So, I explained the kids would reside with me and visit her during vacation, holiday time. I could tell this part hurt her. I told her this is the reality with the kids. She's living in another state. She is hoping to find a job with the school district so she will have more time off with the kids. She said she wants them Thanksgiving most of the time and doesn't care for Christmas. They can stay with me. She never has liked Xmas. The part we struggled with agreement a bit was the length of time the kids spent with her during the summer. That's assuming she has summers off. She asked for the majority of summer, 2 months. I told her that's an awful long time. I feel confident we will work something out there. The last thing she mentioned was if the kids decided they want to live there. I laughed. We then discussed about the mental well-being of the kids and if either one of them suddenly is not doing well here in my hometown and their child counselor decides it's best for them to live with her for a time. Would I be okay with that? I said it will depend on a lot of things, but I want what's best for the kids. My wife cried during this time. I think she realizes that she can't have her cake and eat it too. I told her the only way to see her kids more often was to move back down here. And she said that isn't happening. I told her it's her choice, but she'll have to live with it. While my wife remains thousands of miles away going to meet-up groups and doing social events, while still trying to find work. She became upset during an online chat we had last night. I told her I had planned on taking the kids to see a counselor because of my fear of them missing their mother as well as the fact that we are divorcing. She asked what the counselor said about the meeting, wanted to know everything about the meeting. I know she has a right to do so, and I told her the truth. That things went fine, my daughter enjoyed the visit, but the counselor did not voice concerns after the first meeting. Suddenly, my wife chatted asking why the therapist didn't say anything, and that she wants the counselor's name and number. She also said that she wants to know what's going on because she's still their mother. Also, she said she wants to do video chat or have her father present. It was almost like she was worried she would be portrayed as the bad mother. She definitely came across as upset. I told her I am not part of the meetings, but that the therapist mentioned that she would love for their mother to come down for a meeting with them sometime. I continued to reply in a positive manner and did not allow myself to get sucked into her anger. At the end of the chat, she did sound more relieved that it wasn't some blame session. Pulling myself out of the hell she took me to and I allowed to happen. If I could go back to change how I handled the discovery of the affair, I would, but I have no regrets either. I did my best and learned so much. Advice and encouragement from others have helped too. The same mistakes will never happen again. So, I'm divorcing her? Never my number one choice, but I'm at peace with it now. It's what best for my kids and I and for her. 5 months later. So, the other day, my daughter blew up over something with her brother and yelled at me that I made mommy move away from us. You see, after my wife's affair that lasted for months and eventually died a magnificent death, she also was demoted from her work. The affair occurred while she was working. So, she left to live with her cousin, which gave her crappy advice to get better, but turned out she decided to stay and look for work and date other people. Well, back to my daughter. She believed I was the reason for making mommy leave, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Without telling her the real reasons mommy left, I told her what I tried to do to keep the family better. That seemed to make her feel a little better. Then, last night she asked her mom why she decided to live up there. Mommy gave her the same BS response, which was, I looked for work in both places, but was only offered a job here. We live in Houston, she lives in Minneapolis. It took her 6 months to finally land a job there. To my knowledge, she never looked here. Besides, she lived up there during her job search. Duh, it was sad. She kept asking my daughter if the answer was a good enough answer. Like it was so effing obvious it was a crap answer. I didn't say anything but bit my lip. Her mother lives with a divorced single dad whose kids visit often because mom lives nearby. What a great idea, right? But hearing the guy's kids tell my daughter about the stuff they do with my daughter's mommy just kills me. It sucks seeing my sweet kids go through this undeserving BS. My daughter told me later last night that she is reading a book about a boy whose parents are divorced, and how he was told one thing when he was younger, But now that he's older, teen, he realizes that what he was told was a lie. I think she's at that point, and it's this frustration that makes her angry, not being told the truth. I know I can't tell her the real truth, but I feel if my ex doesn't come out and be honest, that it will really mess up my daughter. Am I worried too much? What should I do? My STBXW is coming in 2 weeks with a trailer to collect her belongings. She has already told me what she wants to collect. She mentioned that I or a friend, family member could keep an eye on her while she collects her stuff. At the time, I was fine with just me or a friend to keep an eye and be present. But could that open a can of worms when she starts seeing things she may have forgotten? Shouldn't matter, right? Now I'm thinking, why not just box her stuff up and leave it on the driveway the morning she comes to collect? Will that make me look like a bitter ex? Comments. Box them up and put them on the driveway. Minimize interaction with her until she starts behaving like a human being. Small update. My STBXW will be picking the kids up for the summer visitation tomorrow. She has them for a total of 60 days. I do have a week in the middle to see them, but I'll have to fly to see them. I went into the mediation with boundaries and 60 days was not one of them. But I gave it to her anyways because I decided the kids need to see her because they miss her so much. Now the kids' counselors feel it is a bit too long. She's asked for changes to the new divorce decree that was drawn up from the mediation. I've held my ground fortunately, and it has pissed her off. But I do feel stronger now than when we met for mediation in April. I just wish I can turn back the clock and do what's right for the kids and me. I haven't really had any kind of IC over the last 6 months for the exception of my kids and the occasional family counseling session. And when I met with their counselor yesterday, she told me that I was too enabling, that my ex has been controlling her whole life more than likely. I wish I was stronger to stand up to my STBXW who I now realize is controlling, immature, and manipulative. I've always been the giver, the pleaser, the nice guy. I did say no to her pleas to cover the kids under her insurance and not mine. I told her to stick to the mediation like I have. I did stand up to her plan of having her addict cousin be the kids' nanny all summer. Right now, she said she's having to watch the kids until she finds an alternate sitter, and so many on here would tell me to man up for months. Why did it take so long to sink in? And now that it finally has, I feel like it's too late and I failed my kids. It's just frustrating and disappointing. 1 month later, I have been officially divorced for about 3 weeks, but it's been about 9 months since I told her I was finished with the marriage. It's a long story that I don't mean to bore some of you with, but what sent the marriage in a tailspin was her infidelity. She lied for months that nothing was happening. The OM stayed with us for a week during his business trip, and when I had a mental breakdown after he left, my ex suggested I get help and medication because it was all in my head, and it was pretty bad that it lasted another 7 months when I ultimately made the discovery 1 month later. She went to MC with me but told the counselor her heart wasn't into repairing the marriage. She left me and the kids last summer when the affair finally died under the promise that she would be back in a month after healing. Turns out she decided to date others up there and now calls Minneapolis her new home. She immediately moved in with a new BF who is also divorced with 2 kids. My anger and disappointment in her have subsided somewhat when it comes to her cheating on me and latching onto that long-distance affair for another 7 months, all the while blaming me for the terrible marriage, which was news to me and everyone else. But sometimes that anger pops up from time to time. Like now, I try to tell myself that she will never change nor apologize or ask for forgiveness and that I need to let it go. For good. Another part I haven't let go is her leaving the kids. They miss their mom so much. They're only 6 and 11. The kids' counselors tried talking my ex into moving back here where she has family and support and that the kids are better off with her being close. But she refused. How in the hell do I forgive her for such a selfish thing? She never has said she is sorry for the pain she has caused to me, the kids, and even her brother and father who struggle with this too. It disappoints me so much seeing my kids suffer because of her choices. I don't want to live with this anger and disappointment inside me about leaving the kids. I know it's unhealthy. Last night, my brother-in-law and I went to see a movie, Batman. On our way there he told me he spoke to his sister for over an hour. He said it started off good but went downhill from there. Basically, he feels she just wants to be heard, versus being told she's in the wrong, and is seeking a pity party from everyone down here. He says she's still very defensive and does not see what she has done wrong. In regard to me, she feels I am not to be trusted. Why? Because of my lawyer. My lawyer did his job and threatened not to send the children to see her back in January when we had no emergency order in place because the divorce process had barely started. My ex couldn't understand why I would think she wouldn't send the kids back home after visiting. My lawyer did the same thing when she picked up the kids for summer visitation. She had not signed the decree at that point and he told her she will not be picking up the kids if she fails to sign it. She did not like this at all and blames me for it. There might be other reasons for her to not trust me, which I never cheated, etc. But I feel that if you're untrustworthy in the first place, you tend to not trust others as well. My brother-in-law also said that we're all trying to seek closure. When my name was brought up, she said that I was not ready to be told regarding closure. Wow. She also said that I was stubborn during marriage counseling. When I heard this, I thought I need to contact her and put closure to this myself. But after sleeping on it, now I am having second thoughts. Part of me feels telling her why I divorced her and how I feel about everything is important. The other part feels she doesn't deserve my time and energy about how I feel. We're already divorced. Post-divorce is still a roller coaster. Dropping off the kids last Sunday and seeing her in person triggered many feelings. Mainly feelings from the distant past when she was not messed up in the head because she was being nice during the pickup. Drop off. Triggers suck. And I need to focus on who she is now, not who she was then. She used to be great, understanding, unselfish, caring, etc. Now she's just the opposite, and even commented yesterday to her brother-in-law that she's no longer a pushover. I guess the question is, what is the right way to put closure on all of this for me? Do I put closure to this myself without ever having to contact her? Or is the only true way of closure is telling her my reasons and feelings? Update. I haven't been on here for several months. The last time I was on here, I was working on manning up. I started going out on dates too. My most recent relationship hit it off unbelievably well. She was divorced like me, 2 kids like me. She is smart, kind, funny, etc. But at the end of a month, my feelings were no longer the same. I guess the brain chemicals wore off. A week ago, I broke off my relationship with this girl who really fell for me. Others told me I'm not over my ex completely. At first, I thought they were wrong for the most part. But now, I'm starting to think they might be onto something. Let me backtrack to 6 weeks ago. My ex came down in early October and we managed to have a family counseling session. At one point, the kids went to the playroom while it was me, my ex, and the 2 therapists. They asked if either of us had anything to say about how the 2 of us were communicating, etc. I said our communication has been poor at best. Then I turned to my ex and said, "And I don't trust you." She understood and teared up a bit, asking what she could do for me to trust her again. I told her to start being honest, and in time, trust can return. A few days later, after she left back for Minnesota, she called me and started ranting how nobody here in Houston trusts her, except her dad, and that she's not welcome here. Then she started suggesting the possibility of moving back home with her dad, but then started debating herself that she can't live with her dad because her brother, who is still angry with her, lives there. She has no friends here, and no job. I told her that people want her back here, especially me, because I've seen what her absence has done to our kids. A week later, she wanted to discuss travel arrangements for Thanksgiving. The kids see her, and asked if they could fly back to Houston late Sunday night. Arrive 10:30 p.m. I said that's too late. She then suggested 5:30 a.m. on Sunday. She said the prices were too much for times in the late morning or afternoon. I told her what comes first, the money or the kids. Yeah, you can guess what happened next. She flipped her lid, said I was still doing this to punish her, that I need to let go, etc. I told her to follow the decree, be home before 6 p.m. Sunday, and I said nothing more. A day later she sent me the flight times which followed the decree. It was during this time that I was dating this other girl. Because my feelings were directed at her, I was able to avoid any of the emotional garbage that my ex tries to suck me in sometimes. This past weekend, she had an opportunity to discuss the possibility of putting the kids on her insurance, but then declined because I do not trust her at all. She keeps going back to what I told her in the therapist's office. She's mentioned this several times since, but it's the truth. I don't trust her. Can't she see why? Now that I've broken off my relationship with my GF, I feel like I am vulnerable. Now I'm having these thoughts, feelings about having my ex in my family again. Crazy, I know. My logical part of the brain knows this. But my emotions right now are having these fantasies of being happy with my kids and their mom, together. I had a dream the other night where her and I were discussing the kids and we were hugging each other. And suddenly, I notice a mushroom cloud out the window. And the TV had the news showing a map where Cuba was hit. Then another country, and another, and I look out the window and there's all these mushroom cloud explosions in the sky. It was so surreal. And then I woke up. If you Google atomic explosions in dreams, you'll discover something interesting. It describes a life-altering event. I don't know. I find myself right now missing the person I spent 10 years with. Yes, I know she's changed. I guess I am struggling with the belief that the person we spent our lives with during our 20s and most of our 30s can change in the blink of an eye, and that they are like a stranger from this moment forth. I almost wrote a letter to her last night, to tell her that I want us to be better communicators, to tell her that I want to trust her, and that I actually still care about what happens to her, but I did not. I intentionally and purposely brought up thoughts of what she put me through with the lies, infidelity, etc. in the past to put a stop to the letter. But I don't want to remain bitter. I don't want to feel this way. and I wonder if that my feelings have come up for her is because I have finally found a way to forgive her, or is maybe what I'm feeling just another stage in my divorce process. Few months later, my ex was down here visiting the kids for spring break. We had family counseling around Thursday, and when the kids were out the room, my ex shared that our trust and communication is still poor. She started to tear up and said she is starting to accept the reality that I'll never trust her and that I view her as a monster. I replied that my lack of trust doesn't have to be permanent. I want to trust her, for the sake of our kids, but she needs to start earning that trust. The next day she shares with me that her live-in BF hit her in the face on New Year's Eve. Our kids, and his, didn't see this, and she left for a hotel with the kids the next morning for the final 4 days they were visiting. She is set to move out in a few weeks and he is pleading to move in with her. She said she told him no but is scared at what he'll do since he has a history of anger and exploding. Why hasn't she moved out already? Her response is that she's worried about his 2 little girls and that she still doesn't know where it all went wrong with him. She did say she has a problem jumping into relationships. Codependent. But that's her problem. Anyways, the next day she asks me to have a talk with her again face to face, and I figure it's about the trust issue. It turns out she apologized for putting me through hell, for all the things she did to me, for the way she treated me, and she regrets not being strong enough. She said that I am a really great guy and I didn't deserve what she did to me. She wishes she could take it all back. She was sobbing and asking for a hug. Whether you agree or not on this one, I actually gave her the hug. I actually felt sorry for her. The anger wasn't there, but disappointment in her definitely was. She kept apologizing again and asked for another hug. She said she is putting herself in my shoes to understand why I made the choices I did. She's starting to finally understand. She started showing me books on depression and happiness and how she will be going to a workshop on this. She also shared she had a relapse of depression last month. She admitted moving away is only giving her a temporary, superficial type of happiness. But all the other realities of having a job, paying bills, and living with what turned out to be an abusive BF did not give her the happiness she was looking for. She admitted that happiness is found inside us. She's realizing now the grass isn't as green on the other side. But she said she's not ready to move back close to home with the kids. She admitted she's still a mess and needs to improve herself first. She doesn't want to end up dead like her mom, who withered away after poor health and depression. Manic too. She has invited me to stay at her place when I visit the kids. She also stated her friends up there wouldn't view me as a bad ex because she told them about her infidelities and that I was a great guy. Etc. etc. Weird. So, all of this didn't make me feel as great as I thought I would. I have to admit I've been hoping this day would come. Started to accept that it wouldn't, and when it did, just didn't feel like I thought it would. Just a very somber talk between us. It did make me feel better that I wasn't as bad a person as she tried to make me out to be. That has really helped and I'm not as hard on myself. But that doesn't mean I learned a lot from this, and I'm still working on making myself even better than before. Since she has left, she hasn't said much to me since, except wanting my input about the kids' summer camp, daycare this summer, which is actually a start in the right direction. Oh, and did I mention 3 weeks ago she offered me to stay 2 weeks instead of 1 week with her during my kids' summer visitation with her? That was the first hint that something was up, like her seeking possible reconciliation. Now she tells me I can stay as long as I like. And that really started messing with my emotions. At first, I would say now that I've had a week to process all of this, my emotions are in check and that I'm getting back on track to focusing on my kids and myself. So, this message is sort of my attempt to finally put this chapter behind me. Sometime later, it's an absolute shock when your wife or husband does a complete 180 on you, especially the moment after D-Day. And I had a hell of a time letting go of my old ex. The one who loved me, cared for me, etc. etc. and accept the new version who was cold, selfish, etc. etc. It's been a year since our divorce was official. Time has definitely helped. I'm in a 4-month relationship that has been great thus far. My kids are currently visiting their mom for the summer, and in the middle of the long visitation, I got to see them for a week. And it's more like a vacation for me since their mom ran away to Minneapolis and the kids and I live in Houston. So, I just returned from my trip to see them. When I arrived to pick them up, my ex greeted me. She was being nice and everything, and as we were about to leave, the kids asked to go get lunch at a nearby eatery. They wanted their mom to go too. I wasn't about to become a prick, especially in front of the kids, so I said she could go. So, we all ate lunch together and things went great. And then those old thoughts came flooding back in. Her smile and kindness reminded me of the old her. Yikes. And I recognize that I sit here typing that I continue to refer to the old her and that she's changed. The old her is in the past. It's no longer the present or reality. Just wish I wouldn't have those dumb thoughts of imagining what once was and could be now if she didn't make so many mistakes and gave the marriage a chance. Don't worry, I'm never going back to her. I'm in a great relationship with someone I care about. but just wanted to share what I was feeling and hope that it's normal to have thoughts like this, and that it's not detrimental either. 2 years later, final update. My latest dating news. I'm not dating anyone, nor am I actively pursuing dating like I was months ago. Trying too hard can make things more complicated than they have to be. Cancelled my subscription to eHarmony too. For now, I'm focusing my efforts back on my kids and myself. So, things have been congenial between my ex and I since her brother's wedding back in October. The kids went to visit her just after Christmas and she invited me to visit part of the time during the holidays. So, I did? Yes, I know you're probably thinking WTF. However, I honestly feel that I've put to rest a lot of my anger and resentment towards what she did. I know many people want nothing to do with their ex. But because we have kids, I don't want to follow that hardline path if it's not necessary. I wanted to spend time with my kids during the holiday, and I felt it would be another step towards building a better partnership for our kids to see. And here is where things reminded me of who I divorced. So, I arrive and things go fine. The next day, our kids, her and I are snow tubing at a little resort outside of town, and it's getting late. We decide to pick up pizza on the way back to town. She hands me her phone to see what type of pizza I'd like to order, and then a text message pops up on the screen. It says, "I love you." And guess who it was from? The OM from 3 years ago. The same POSOM who went running back to his wife. To say some hidden PTSD suddenly came to the surface would be a correct assessment. The same thing happened 3 years ago, when she visited while we were separated. Nearly the exact same thing. It was like the man upstairs was trying to tell me something. The text disappeared and the menu was all that was on the screen. I handed the phone back and said I didn't care what pizza we ordered and I went outside. Later that night, with the kids asleep, and before leaving to my hotel, she tells me how things have been hard. How she's not dating anyone, really, and is lonely. How she'd love to have the kids move up and I can too, never in a million years. How she struggles and that she fears she's ending up like her mom, manic depressive, who passed away. She sobbed and cried for the next hour or two while I just sat there stone-faced. She popped some anxiety meds to sleep and I left. At the airport, I contacted OM's wife and she tells me they are divorcing and was suspicious that they were back again. She didn't care. She was focused on finally divorcing the POS. She then contacts me in late March to tell me he broke it off with my ex for the 3rd time and is dating some other woman. All of this told me my ex is still a broken down woman. Someone who still struggles with her emotional demons. Who is desperate enough to go out with her AP from years ago only to be kicked to the curb a 3rd time. It's all unhealthy. And I am not rescuing her. She recently told me she is going to a class about building confidence. Good, the best of luck to her. But she's on her own because I have my own life and I'm working on improving my script, not someone else's. My comment: what did you think about that final ending? Did OP did the right thing? Or you think he was still a doormat? Comment down and